What's up everyone? A few months ago I made a long video about album rollouts and many of my favorites. Today, we're gonna do it again, more rollouts. Some of these are ones I forgot or chose to skip in the first one, some are your suggestions. Let's just jump into it. Let's start off with one that I honestly don't think about too much, but now holds a ton of nostalgia. If Looks Could Kill by Destroy Lonely. Coming off the enormous success of No Stylist, Destroy Lonely was setting himself up for a legendary victory lap. He announced the name of the project in September 2022, and after the deluxe for No Stylist came out in November, Lone started teasing snippets of the next album through his Tumblr and Instagram in the later part of that year. After that, the album's title track quickly started to trend on TikTok, growing hype for what was next. In February 2023, the rollout began. Lonely dropped the music video for Never Ever off No Stylist, and right after, jumped into the new era. It was time. He dropped the song March 3rd, and after that took the month off to tour in Europe, not coming back until the end of April when this poster was found in New York. On the mirror was a QR code that took you to the album's site with a May 5th countdown. I wonder when it's dropping. From there on out, it was standard rollout fare. He dropped a snippet, cleared his Insta, posted the cover, then it came out, alongside a short film matching the horror aesthetic of the album. If Looks Could Kill, I'll admit, wasn't the most exciting rollout. There wasn't any controversy, it wasn't drawn out, but for me personally, and hopefully a lot of y'all, it carries with it a lot of nostalgia, which I feel more than anything makes a rollout, especially now. With so much music coming out every week, making an album strong enough to define a chapter of someone's actual life, I think is really powerful. Plus, in its case, the hype for this album was really crazy. You gotta remember, No Stylist was like 9 months old when If Looks Could Kill came out. He really could have let that project sit way longer, but he saw what was happening with his career and gave us a really special era that I think will be hard for someone to replicate, currently at least. Keeping with the nostalgic topic, a lot of people brought up Uzi on the last video, and without a doubt he ties into that. The most obvious examples of this, Eternal to Take and Pink Tape, two albums with rollouts so chaotic I can make them entire videos themselves, but I'll keep it brief. Let's go back to 2018. Uzi in regular fashion had been increasingly cryptic during the year, but in July they changed their bio to Eternal to Take, tweeting about what it means, and a bit after we got the iconic OG cover art as well. After the initial announcement though, things started to fall apart fast. By the end of the year, the album still hadn't released even though Uzi said it was done, and at the start of 2019, Uzi quit music. Not really, but the reason for the messy rollout at that point had been finally chalked up to issues with their label, Atlantic, and it was growing more and more public throughout the year. In April, the rollout fired up again with the single Sanguine Paradise and That's a Rack dropping, but progress was still crazy slow. Fans were now expecting it to drop in July after Uzi told a fan to wait 2 weeks in a video. Of course, that didn't materialize, but fast forward to the end of the year, things started moving again. Uzi would release Fusel Shuffle in December and promised to drop 3 projects in 2020. In February, yet again, Uzi went on Instagram Live and said Eternal to Take was coming in 2 weeks. Everyone thought they were lying, but surprisingly, just 1 week later, Uzi jumped on Twitter and announced the album would be dropping that day, and it did. Despite all the delays, Eternal to Take dropped 1 week early. And that wasn't even the end of it. Remember earlier when I was talking about Uzi wanting to drop 3 projects in 2020? Yeah, that happened. A week later, we got Lil Uzi Vert vs. The World 2, serving as Eternal to Take's Deluxe, and at the end of the year, the often overlooked Pluto x Baby Pluto with Future as the 3rd project. So you know what? Not bad, Uzi. Bit of a convoluted rollout, but most of that was out of their control. I'm sure it will happen again or anything.
Pink tape, pink tape, pink tape, pink tape.
Late 2020, Uzi gets back on IG Live playing unreleased songs, and over the next couple of months, shit just starts getting out of hand. Uzi gets a $20 million diamond implant and goes on a Twitter rampage, teasing literally everything they could. Music with Travis, music with Grimes. Hey, you know what? It's time to drop 1629. Someone call up Cardi. But July 2021 is where we properly take off. Just like Eternal Take, Pink Tape's name is just dropped out in the open for fans to speculate on, while Uzi dips to go do whatever Uzi does. Certainly not recording the damn album. The release date is confirmed to be on or before Halloween, but no. At least here there was clarification. Uzi was worried that the album wouldn't be received well, so the release was halted to ensure that fans wouldn't trash it, which I find commendable. A rushed album is bad, but a delayed album also has a high chance of being bad. Out of this we got the single Demon High, which was alright, better to get a single than Radio Silence, but after this we basically did get Radio Silence. 2022 was a mostly quiet year up until the second half. In July, the Red and White EP dropped as an appetizer, but still not much going on until October when we finally got the album's first single, Just Wanna Rock. If you were there, you know that this song was just like a shot to the arm. It was like, oh shit, Uzi's back, this album finna be fire, and that hype carried us steadily into 2023 and the release of the album. By March, they stated that the finishing touches were being put on the album, there's a lot of press and news going on, the Leslie Chow persona, which everybody was confused about. There was just a lot of talking about Uzi and this album in the spring of 2023, but we still had no clue when it was supposed to drop. It wouldn't be until mid-June when we got the album's release date of June 30th. The next week would be flooded with hype, as once again, in case you weren't there, Pink Tape was like the first notable rap album to drop that year, and it was dropping in June. So by that point, we were excited for just a crumb of music to drop. Anything, please. But there was a lot of neat stuff going on. We got a look at a bunch of alternative covers. Fun fact, one of them is what Uzi is painting on the Red and White cover. Very cool Easter egg. And then the release itself, I remember Spotify crashed when it dropped. That happens a lot now, but this was one of the first times I remember Spotify crashing on release night. And Pink Tape was huge for like a week. Unfortunately, Utopia kinda stole its thunder, but that's okay because 2023 was intended to be the year of two Uzi projects, Pink Tape and announced in July, Barter 16. Barter 16 was very interesting. It was supposed to be this whole homage tape to Young Thug, and we saw Uzi working really hard on it. They even set the goal that if this dude, Little 1 DET, hit 100k on Instagram, then the album would drop. That didn't happen, and from there, Barter 16 was plagued by leaks. The entire project was out basically before the end of August, and that is what unfortunately killed it. We did almost get the tape in September 2023, but even then, Uzi was only wanting to release it to get it out of the way, and of course, it still didn't come out. Since then, we've gotten the completely forgotten about Eternal Take 2, and now Love is Rage 3, which is going through a nightmare rollout of its own currently. So that's Uzi. Let's move on to another mysterious artist. Frank Ocean's second studio album, shrouded in mystery with its status unclear for years. We start this one in early 2013. Frank had been stating that after the release of Channel Orange, he might not make another album. But on a Zane Lowe interview, he confirmed that he went back on that statement and was now 10 songs into production. Over the next year, there was little info, but it was all very promising. He was playing new tracks at shows, people in his camp would time after time come out raving about how good it was, but nothing concrete, and of course, nothing really from Frank himself, except for it almost being finished around Coachella 2014. April 2015 would be the first official news we got with any type of merit behind it. Frank Ocean makes a return to Tumblr with a simple post. I got two versions. Issue 1, Album 3, July 2015. Boys Don't Cry. Frank was coming back with both an album and a magazine, and it would only take 3 months. It didn't happen. But real quick, I did want to note, 2 versions? This will be expanded on shortly, but touche Frank, that is really clever. Following the announcement, we didn't get anything, the album skipped July, and come 2016, it still was not around. In July, the website was updated with this now iconic image of a library card. On it were a full year's worth of missed dates, ending with a scribbled out date for July 2016, which it somehow still wouldn't make. Whatever date that was, nothing happened, until August 1st when this live stream began on Apple Music. If you saw the last video, then you know what happens from here, but for the next 2 weeks, this live stream would loop as the album again missed its newly announced release date. On August 18th, Frank finally showed up and started building furniture as this new album played. But after it finished, there was yet another revelation. This album was not the next Frank Ocean album, it was its own thing called Endless. The Boys Don't Cry album everyone was expecting still wasn't out yet. Then comes August 20th, and Frank drops the video for a song called Nikes. But wait, Nikes wasn't on Endless. What is this? Few hours later, the real album was out. It wasn't Boys Don't Cry, it was Blonde, and the rest was history. 2 versions was 2 albums. And if you want to know the reason for that, check out the title video and the domino effect that this release had. Another 2016 classic, Views. I wanted to pick this one not because of the album's quality, but more its cultural relevance. It had a very special release, and that rollout really did have the world on the edge of its seat. In summer 2014, the first news we'd get about the album would be the name. Back then, the album was being called Views from the 6, and the anticipated release was spring 2015. But when 2015 came around, it would be a quiet year for the album, as Drake ended up focusing instead on his beef with Meek Mill and releasing the mixtapes If You're Reading This It's Too Late, and later on, What a Time to Be Alive. But in July, we did get Hotline Bling as a single for the album, and that exploded later on as a meme. The start of 2016 would be when the rollout officially kicked off. In January, Drake gives the album an April release date and drops Summer 16. Then views billboards start going up, there's people talking about who will be on the album, and Drake himself confirms the final stretch. When April came, he dropped One Dance and Pop Style. Then on OVO Sound, Drake gave the final release date of April 29th, 2016. From there, it's full hype. The album cover drops, it blows up, and the album just takes over once it hits. Still one of the biggest releases ever and basically made that summer. But of course, I gotta throw in some new examples of poor rollouts. There's been too much success and good vibes in these other albums. We need some stinkers, and I got 2 in mind. UI Scuti had immense hype for it from the moment Young Thug got out of jail. Everyone was ready to see what he was dropping next, and we were all assured that it would be a proper comeback album. Business is Business wasn't that great, sure, but it made sense why that album wouldn't be so good. But this had a real shot of being decent, so it was hyped accordingly. It started in March when he started teasing the name of the album in public and on Instagram. The reason for the name being that UI Scuti is the biggest star in the solar system, so you could take it to mean that Thug is the biggest star in rap. It's kinda neat, honestly, I liked it. At first, the rollout moved kinda quick. We learned that 21 Savage would be on the album. Then Young Thug used his Coachella billboard to announce the album would drop in May. Then the pre-orders dropped with the album's first single, Money on Money, featuring Future. Finally, the date was confirmed to be May 9th on Instagram, but nothing happened. The rollout just kinda stopped in May and went into limbo. It's like the album kinda just fell apart. And after that, shit just hit the fan. All these phone calls got leaked of Young Thug talking about literally every incriminating thing he can possibly talk about in regards to other rappers and what went on during his trial, causing a lot of issues with everyone who was still backing him in the industry. He dropped a song as an apology and gave the album a new date of September 19th. It got pushed back just one more time before dropping on the 26th, where it was pretty disappointing. But at least there was an attempt at a rollout. There are albums going through way worse right now. Did you know that DJ Khaled has been trying to make an album for 2 years now? It started with this dumb bit of him holding signs around Drake saying that he's got 2 Drake songs on his album, but then after that, it again kinda just faded away. It didn't drop in 2024, and then after everything that happened in 2024, DJ Khaled tried to revive the album with Drake again, and Drake actually just denied the album. He doesn't want to be on it, and that once again shut it down. There hasn't really been anything since then. Finally, we got Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, one of my favorite album rollouts ever. Let's set this up. Kendrick Lamar goes missing in the late 2010s. He kinda just steps out after 2018, and in 2020, we were supposed to see him come back. There was a few festivals he was headlining, and it seemed like an album was in the pipeline. But then 2020 unraveled, and we still didn't see Kendrick Lamar that year. He was gone until the midpoint of the year after, in 2021. His cousin Baby Keem had been teasing this collab song between the two of them, and in the middle of that, Kendrick returns from his cave with this OK Llama site and this post on it. This was finally word that an album was coming, and a month later the Melodic Blue drops, which is Kendrick's formal comeback, and it's also announced that he will be on the Super Bowl's halftime show. But after that, he went away. The next few months were silent to the point where after the Super Bowl, nobody really knew where this album was at. Nothing had come out of it yet. Until April 18th, when Kendrick just tweets at a fan with the new OK Llama update, the name of the album, and the release date of May 13th, 2022. A couple weeks after this, the album was mastered, The Heart Part 5 drops after Spotify accidentally leaked it, then the album cover, and lastly, the album itself. I loved this release. It was simple and to the point, while keeping a lot of surprises and mystery behind it. Don't Tap the Glass, this is a quick one because it was a really good recent example of a surprise rollout. I like to see just a date, then pre-orders, then it comes out. Super clean, but what I thought was most interesting was that Don't Tap the Glass was released in the middle of another era. It was made and dropped in the middle of Crowacopia's tour, and in this age where every artist takes at least a year off with each album cycle, it was cool to see someone do very thematically different albums at the same time and just let those projects coexist out there. Chromacopia even got a deluxe after Don't Tap the Glass came out. Like, there's no set structure here, which is very refreshing. Daft Punk, always a mysterious group, had gone dark, not really seen or heard from since 2010, but in February of 2013, they came back announcing a deal with Columbia, these billboards of their iconic helmets start going up, and then on March 2nd, they put a teaser on SNL of just the Daft Punk logo in this glittery fashion with some new music playing in the background. On March 23rd, they did it again, now longer, featuring more of the song. That same day, the album is officially announced with its release date of May 21st. At Coachella, they dropped a third teaser, again with this new song, now teasing its music video and revealing at the end who all was going to be featured on the album. The track list would be announced on Vine of all things a few days later, and a few days after that, Get Lucky releases as the first single from the album, quickly becoming Daft Punk's biggest song. On May 13th, the unboxing for the album dropped because Ram would end up being huge on physical, still one of the most common albums you'll find on vinyl. In that unboxing was a snippet of the album's opening track, and in the lead up to the album's release, they would throw a party in the middle of nowhere, Australia. Back in April, it had been announced that the album's official release party would not be hosted in a big city or a lavish destination. It would be in an Australian farm town with a population of 2,000. The Wee-Wah party was the most unique thing they could have done for this rollout, and there's something about it that I always thought was fun. It had been announced previously that Daft Punk weren't going to be there, but they still sold 4,000 tickets, and the whole thing looked to just be a good vibe of Daft Punk fans hanging out and getting a special edition of the album while they were there. Overall, a really nice fan-centered rollout. They really wanted to make sure this album hit the right audience. The Cure is one of my favorite bands, and last year they crafted one of the best comeback rollouts I've ever seen. For context, The Cure and mainly Robert Smith have held a shaky credibility for their entire career. Nearly every Cure album was stated to be the final Cure album until people just stopped believing that. 2008 would bring 413 Dream, an album that with its bad title was supposed to bring a sequel later with 414 Scream. The plan behind it was that Dream would be mostly made up of happy, cheerful Cure songs, while Scream would be a return to the darker, more dreary music they had kinda stopped making up to that point. But that darker sequel never came. It would just be pushed back and back while the band kinda forgot about it, bringing us to 2019, when The Cure had been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, with Robert speaking out soon after about a new album. It would be continually teased until 2020 once again derailed it, now with no word being given out until 2022, where we found out the new name was Songs of a Lost World, and it would be out later that year. Yeah, it didn't come out. And looking into 2023, it still wasn't out, which was weird, since The Cure was on tour in 2023, and that tour was for this album, which wasn't out. That's really confusing, but it happened, and by 2024, it looked like that tour was just a fluke, because even though they played a lot of new songs, there was no word on the studio version of this album, which was confirmed to nearly be done 3 years ago. But whatever. Late 2024 was when things started taking shape. Fans got these cards in the mail with the album's name and Roman numerals stamped into it, showing the date of November 1st, 2024. The next day, this poster was found at the bar where The Cure played their first show, and from there, their website was updated with snippets of songs and this floating head, later revealed as the album's cover. The rollout continued smooth from there. They dropped 2 singles, pre-orders, and what do you know, the album came out on time. It might have been 16 years later, but hey, they did it and it was good. If you're following this rollout from the very start, I'm sure you would have either lost interest altogether in the band or felt underwhelmed, but I think they did a great job of pulling their fan base together and hyping up all the people who never lived through a Cure release to that point and getting them on board. Clipse, another group with an insanely long hiatus, also going rogue after the late 2000s. In June of 2024, a new song with John Legend premiered at a Louis Vuitton show in Paris, and it came out that this new album was 90% done. But then it fell silent. We'd have to fast forward to mid-2025 when the rollout kicked off again, with a cover being revealed with this release date. Here's when the interviews come out, as the rollout had a lot to get into, as Pusha T was involved in several topics that people really wanted to hear his opinion on. The fallout with Kanye, the Drake beef. The album was confirmed to have a Kendrick feature by this point, which caused problems with their label. All this news further spread the word of the album, and the singles kept it going with Ace Trumpets, and the next one, So Be It, now crossing paths with another rollout in progress. Jackboys 2 had kind of been all over the place for a few months by this point, with pre-orders but no real content from the album. It was just an upcoming release for a while, until Travis Scott was called out on So Be It. This song would become the new topic of the Clipse rollout, while Travis Scott didn't respond, but Push made it very clear why they made the song and even expected no response to it. As the Clipse release got closer, it was clear that Jackboys was also getting close. They sent out these Lamborghinis to everyone featured on the album, ending in the release date July 13th, 2 days after the Clipse album, looking to overshadow it, which it obviously did. But in terms of who had the better rollout, it was still Clipse. Jackboys 2 was essentially cobbled together last minute to respond to this album, and all that really did was hurt Jackboys 2. Cause as a response, it's a bad album fighting to criticism about you making bad music. But all of this was a good show, and that's all you could really ask for in this kind of thing. Friendly competition. Let's just hope Travis took it that way. It wouldn't be a clouded video if I didn't talk about Kanye, and this time I had to pick my favorite album of his, Yeezus, and look at its rollout. And the thing with Yeezus isn't exactly the rollout, but the energy connected to the rollout. I just love this album, but its rollout by modern Kanye standards was very tame. It started with a simple tweet on May 1st that something was coming out on June 18th. Then he debuts New Slaves on projectors in 60 cities just out in front of buildings. He took a ton of songs to SNL, debuting the new sound of the album. Afterward came the album cover and the name. This picture of it next to the Red October is like, this is what I mean. This era was delightful. I even found a blog from back then, and for reference, right, here's the original Yeezus cover art before it got changed. Coolest thing ever, right? Yeah, everybody back then hated it. Like, damn, you guys are lame. I like creativity, God forbid. Around this time, J. Cole would move his release date for Born Sinner to the Yeezus date, not to go toe-to-toe with Kanye, but more to stand next to Ye. That day saw Yeezus drop, J. Cole's album drop, and Mac Miller's album drop. All not trying really to compete with each other, more just making a good treat for the community, because everyone kinda won in it. And going back to the promotion, I loved the grungy kind of rugged aspect of it. The entire presentation of this album was the lack of an album. With how stripped back it was, I miss it. The tour for this album honestly should have won an Oscar. And speaking of Oscars, The Weeknd made a movie, right? I did want to talk about Hurry Up Tomorrow's convoluted rollout, but I realized any bit of complaining I did about that rollout would be overshadowing the actual good Weeknd rollouts, which there are a lot of. But out of all of them, I picked After Hours, as it was a decently sizable step up from anything Abel had made before it, so let's start in November of 2019. The Weeknd reactivates his Instagram and quickly started dropping music. Heartless and Blinding Lights were teased for a couple weeks, then released. Abel's outperforming them everywhere in January. The name, release date, and cover were all dropped with the title track in February. Some more performances, then it drops in March. All telling a continuous story that goes on for years after this. What a glorious rollout. It really occupied a weird bit of time where 2020 was still going really well, but then it all flipped right after this, which is a big shame because I feel like that's why a lot of people kind of forgot about what happened with this rollout. But that's it for this one, everybody. I really wanted to not leave anything too major out of this one, so I tried to cover as many as I could, and I think that made this a really long video. So if you stuck around, what's up? Thanks for watching. I don't like to make long videos because they are annoying to write, but I am trying to go back to back with this and my next video. I want it to be really good, and I still don't know what it might balloon into, so it probably won't be done until like mid to late December. After that, I'll start doing shorter videos, then I'll ramp back up, but that's kind of the plan for now. I'm in the middle of finals right now, and it feels like I have physically procrastinated as much as I possibly can, and the lock-in is not working. So until that's done, I'm in a bit of a rush, but of course updates or anything I do will be on the socials, link in the description. Like, subscribe, and as always, stay clouded.